Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second day of the Global Innovation Forum. My name is Letty Tanner. I'm the head of consumer at Canida4. I'm genuinely excited to be talking with Ellis Spiezia today about the future of sustainable motorsport. Just to acknowledge, we have a live capture illustrator today who is going to be capturing some of our themes and topics of conversation. So thanks for that, Chris, from Live Illustration. Ellis is a 16-year-old electric racing driver and a huge, passionate electric motorsport advocate. Hello, Ellis, and welcome.
How's it going? Good to be here.
Great. It's really good to have you. Thanks for joining us. I believe we have a short video, Ellis, just sort of looking at you in action, which will give everybody a bit of a taste of what you do and how you do it. So hopefully Max will bring this in. Here we go. Literally gives me goosebumps. Alice, your journey into electric motor racing has been quite a journey along with your family over the last sort of 3 years. So just intrigued to understand sort of like where it all began, what that journey's entailed and where the passion comes from.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a wild ride up until this point. In terms of racing, I started pretty late when I was around 13, 14. Some of these kids are in go-karts since they can barely walk. So it's sort of it's a crazy sport in the sense that a lot of these kids start so early. But I've been a car fan all my life. I'm not from a motorsport family, so I didn't grow up around a racing track. It's sort of been something that I found myself, and went rental karting for a few years, meeting people in that space that, even though it's technically a for fun activity that a lot of people just do as a one-off, is there's always that small community that really likes racing and takes it serious. And that's really where I started to develop my passion for motorsport and really sort of enjoy racing. And in the true sort of entrepreneur mindset that my parents have, is we decided that to take the next step, we should do something different. And we really saw electric motorsport as something that was brand new, and it was a really great opportunity to move forward, but still have a brand new vertical that is so rare, especially in a sport as established as racing. To catch sort of that new wave is really, really exciting, and something that is sort of like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Absolutely. Super hot topic as well. I'm quite intrigued. You're currently racing in the world's first all-electric junior formula racing series. I'm intrigued where just generally like where electric racing is today, in terms of like any sort of progress around the technology, challenges around that. Just be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think, obviously with any new technology coming into such a sort of set in stone sport like racing has been, it's been pretty much the same for a while. So having such a flip in terms of technology and thinking It's obviously come with its own set of challenges, but the short time that it's been around, it's the innovation has been incredible. You know, Formula E went from switching cars in the middle of the race because, you know, they couldn't make it all the way to the end, and now, you know, the cars can make it to the end. There's other series coming up, so it's not just, you know, Formula E. Now there's Extreme E, there's Electric Rallycross, so it's sort of spreading out to all the different disciplines, and I think that's really important. And yeah, it's just been awesome to watch and sort of be able to grow with it. As I become a better driver, the sport improves as well. So it's been really exciting.
And do you think there's still kind of advancements to be made? Are we in really great shape? Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's in
absolutely.
terms of the weight of the car, is it? In terms of the
yeah, for sure. That's our biggest problem, you know, especially the go-karting, the electric karting. It's really what's holding us back is the weight. You know, we have more horsepower, we have higher top speed, so now it's really just that weight that is going to bring the lap time down. And weight is sort of the biggest issue in terms of everything. So lap time, battery life, as the weight comes down, you can keep the same lap time by, you know, reducing the performance of the car, but because the weight's down, you still keep the lap time that you want. So it sort of lets you prolong how much battery life you have without having to change the battery tech. So if the battery technology and the weight can come down and improve at the same time, that's just gonna be massive. So that's sort of our biggest innovation that's still being worked on.
Yeah. And how do you think the developments in racing are affecting the wider sort of motor industry and the big players in that space?
I think it has a huge impact. You know, racing has always been the testing ground for new technology, and I think especially with electric mobility being such a new space, having motorsport as that testing ground, like it always has been, is really important. You know, we've seen Formula E. It was a couple of the big names sort of, you know, were keeping their eye on it, and now, you know, you had a grid with Mercedes, with Porsche, Audi, BMW. So there's definitely a lot of value in the technology that they're learning about by doing motorsport.
Yeah. And I guess we have to consider not just the emissions of the car during the race and the impact, if we're looking at kind of net zero solution, like this sort of end to end, what are the kind of end to end challenges around the actual race and the actual vehicle emissions?
Yeah. It's really with especially with ERA, the Junior Formula Series, is they're sort of taking that as far as they can. So instead of having teams bringing in their cars on their trucks with all their equipment, it's arrive and drive. So you just have to show up to the track, and since they transport everything, you know, it's 3 trucks carrying race cars instead of, you know, 7. So it's really a way of thinking that just, you know, 20% of the actual emissions from racing is on track. The rest of that is drivers getting to the track, the equipment getting to the track. So having the sustainable transport is really important, and the charging as well. In the electric karting, we're starting to see some tracks have solar grids that are really close by that we can connect to. So instead of charging off of, you know, diesel generators, is now you're charging off of solar energy, which just adds on to, you know, the use case of electric, and it really helps us out because we can now, when we're preaching electric motorsport, it's also really hammering home the sustainability side.
Yeah. And the speed of charging, is that getting better?
Yeah, it's really getting better. So we have a generally a safe charging speed that we found is around 45 minutes. And on a crowded race weekend, you know, you usually get out around every hour. So it's now we're not in a space where the charging is limiting how long we're getting out. There's also fast charging, but that usually isn't as good for the batteries. So fast charging, you can usually 25 minutes be out and ready to go. But if you're taking care of your car like you should, usually it's around 45 minutes.
Cool. We just had a question come in on this topic. So people are asking about, or Jose is asking about hydrogen, and is there a future in this domain? And, you know, I've got a question on biofuels and sort of other solutions. Like, so just be interested to get your take on that, electric as part of a bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen there's a racing series that ERA is running as a support tune named ETCR, and they actually use hydrogen generators to charge their cars, which is pretty awesome. And I definitely see, there's no one sole answer. It's not going to be an all electric future. I think there's always room for hydrogen, biofuels. For a school project, I made biodiesel out of vegetable oil. So that was a really cool project
Amazing.
to see the process of that. But for sure, I think hydrogen definitely has a space. It's another new technology that, until we sort of see how it works when it's widely adopted, same with electric. Once we see how that works when it's sort of widely adopted, there's definitely room for both.
It's the ecosystem and the infrastructure around all of this as
Exactly.
well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ellis, clearly you're 16, which is amazing, doing such great things in terms of being an advocate for electric motorsport. I just wanted to understand a bit more about like junior entry level series developments, why this is important, and sort of challenges and risks that are around that. So just a little bit about the kind of junior entry and what that means, like next gen.
Yeah, so with electric racing, we've seen, Formula E is sort of the top level, ETCR is the top level. So that's sort of, paid drivers, professional drivers. And then we have the karting all the way down here, which is, grassroots. That's where you have to start in motorsport. But there really is that big gap in between. And that gap in between is what combustion motorsport has, which is, Formula 4, 3, 2, then you get to 1. And that's how, ERA is starting to bridge that gap, is making the switch from karts to cars. That's a big jump in someone's career. And it's really making that bridge between the bottom level of the ladder, which is karting, all the way up to the top, which is ETCR, Formula E, and making a clear path for drivers.
And what are the challenges around that jump? Is it financial? Is it sort of skill level, like progression? Like, what would you say the key
Yeah,
challenges between that?
it's always a mix. It's really it's the skill difference is huge between a kart and a car. The go kart is pretty much a tube frame. It's got wheels, an engine, a steering wheel, and it's as raw as you can get. And then you jump in a car, and there's downforce and there's suspension, so there's a lot more to think about. But with all that being more complicated, also is a lot more expensive. And we've seen in combustion that the barrier to entry financially has gotten so high that what we would spend to do ERA for a season, which is a formula racing series, all electric. We're following a world championship in ETCR. And what you spend to do ERA is some people are spending to do in karting. So it's the combustion racing side has really gotten out of hand with the barrier to entry financially. And electric racing is really starting to reel that back in and let us sort of make that jump without breaking the bank. And, there's no advantage to be had by spending more money because it's all spec. And that's the key is, in combustion Formula 4, if you're not with a top team, you're really fighting an uphill battle. And that's sort of taken some great talent out of the driver ladder that could have made it, but just couldn't afford to be competitive.
Yeah. And do you think there's an advantage in the kind of sustainability angle in terms of sponsorship? Are people interested in that? Like how does that feel?
Absolutely. It's really having a new vertical with sustainability means that there's new sponsors that are all of a sudden interested in motorsport that haven't been in the past. So you're not fighting with the same sponsors that everyone else is going for. Is now all of a sudden there's this brand new side of, solar energy or electric mobility companies that didn't have an interest in racing because it wasn't sustainable and didn't align with them. But now they have opportunities and they're excited because what's the best way to market electric mobility than, an awesome race car? So it's really giving them a new way to support young drivers, and they know that their sponsorship aligns with them as a brand.
Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned like the metaverse and doing cool things in that space. I'm sure the audience would be kind of intrigued by that.
Yeah, so we're using metaverse and blockchain technology as sort of a way to build a community. It's more than, especially with the NFTs, it's more than, just buying the livery of the car, which is awesome in its own way, but giving it utility and building that community is what's really key. So my dad is our sort of blockchain expert. He does all of our, NFT work, metaverse, things like that. And I think it's a really cool way to interact with people that support you. We're going to be live streaming races. We're making a lot of cool partnerships that are going to let us really do a lot of cool things.
Great. And moving forward as well, I mean, obviously sustainability is a massive part of it, but at KD, we talk a lot about we've got kind of accessibility, making products and experiences really accessible and inclusive is really at the heart of what we do. And I know that's true for you as well. And obviously motorsport is quite a male dominated event. So just sort of intrigued to get your take on what you're involved with in terms of sort of making change moving forward, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's really, I think racing is one of, the best sports to sort of have, gender equality like that, because in racing, you have a helmet on, and when you're in the car, everyone's just got a helmet on. And so you're a driver. And that really is, especially with electric racing, it's sort of a fresh start. A lot of the FIA has done a lot of work that has been great, but there's series like W Series that are sort of seeing the challenges. W Series was an all female racing series. I'm pretty sure they use Formula 3 cars, and there's absolutely amazing drivers, but the FIA hasn't done enough work to help them progress. That's been the biggest problem. Is there's a lot of fantastic talent in that series that are now stuck because the FIA hasn't really helped them move forward. So it's really, with electric racing, and our team we're really going to be trying to be as mindful as we can of sort of bringing that diversity and inclusivity into Ellysium racing. And I think electric racing sort of being that fresh start is really going to be helpful as well.
And how do you go about doing that? Like, do you set up your own initiatives, or do you link in with other partners that kind of
I think it's really
encourage
just
that?
sort of networking and working, where we work really closely with the organizers of the ERA championship, and they sort of share similar goals to us as well with that. So it's really just working with them and seeing what is the best way to do it. And I think having the lower barrier to entry it's really another awesome addition. So we have had some awesome female test drivers. We had one in Spain, and she was really great. So the talent is really there, and I look forward to seeing a super diverse grid next year.
And you're involved with kind of STEM initiatives as well, Ellis, aren't you? Kind of supporting the education side of that.
Yeah, so we're working with a company called STEM Punks, and we're doing a lot of cool stuff with teaching their students about e-mobility and teaching them about electric mobility through racing. And it's really great because we're in the paddock. We can be really up close and personal with the cars. So making lots of content with them. We're using RC cars to sort of show on a smaller scale how everything works. So that's really awesome. And yeah, just looking forward to doing some more work with them. And I think electric racing has a lot of potential for an educational side because of how new it is and how applicable it is to the real world.
Yeah. And just understanding what's coming up, like where are you at the moment in terms of the racing side of things? What's happening in your worlds and with your family?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Jersey visiting, but usually, we're over in Europe because there's no electric racing in the States. So we sort of left last year. We moved out of our apartment to sort of be in Europe a lot more over the years so we can focus on racing. And been doing some great work with ERA. We're going to a race weekend with them, and looking forward to doing some more testing with them as well. So that's been really awesome to help develop that car. And lots of electric karting. We've been going to some of those events. I've been competing in that as well. And next year, as the sort of car racing ramps up, we'll still be going to those events, having some young drivers that'll be sort of in our team, going to support them, and really building our team around electric racing.
Yeah. And in terms of Formula E, What's the kind of hot news in that space at the moment? Movers and shakers, and where are just interested to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, so they Formula E just released their Gen 3 car, so that's really, really awesome. There's a ton of innovations that they've done that are really sort of catering towards the electric capabilities. So they're only using the regen for the rear braking. It's the specs on the car are absolutely insane. I think they really sort of kicked it up into high gear this year with the innovation side of really pushing it as far as they can. And yes, that's sort of been the hot topic in Formula E. We got to see the car reveal. We went to the Monaco race where they unveiled it, and it's a really cool machine.
Amazing. And obviously there's lots of kind of innovators on this call, Ellis. So I guess people might be intrigued to know, like, if people could support in any way with kind of automotive electric racing, what do you think the key areas would be?
I think just put the skills that you have out there. There's constantly racing series and manufacturers that are always looking for new ways of thinking, and I think thinking as out of the box as possible really helps racing grow, especially. So there's a lot happening in the next couple years. DTM is going to go electric. There's the FIA just announced their electric GT style championship as well. So there's definitely a lot going on. So it's definitely sort of seeing opportunities that you think interest you, and then just being curious about them.
Yeah, and I guess the key challenges in the actual vehicle are around the kind of energy storage, battery storage, the weight, and performance, I guess, like, because we don't want to, obviously in sustainability we can make change, but that can't be to the detriment of performance and of the quality of the product. So I'm assuming that's kind of like where the key areas are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the performance has been sort of something that, even though it's so new, it's already getting competitive with combustion. So it's really awesome to see that we're not sacrificing any of the sort of sustainability side of things. We're not having to give up any performance to do it. And yeah, electric racing is still super new. So it's in terms of the timeline of racing, it's still a small fraction. So as time progresses, technology is just going to get better, and that's something that we're waiting on a whole industry pretty much. We're waiting on the whole of battery technology to get better, so it's a bit of a waiting game in terms of how fast things will progress. We'll just have to see, but I think once it starts to get more widely adopted, it's going to pick up even more.
And who are the key innovators in the kind of wider automotive industry, would you say? I mean, some brands are involved with the racing side of things, but who would you say are the kind of key players in that space?
I think honestly, with the motorsport side of things, Williams is doing a lot of the battery technology. So they're working. They have batteries in Formula E. They do all of that, and they're sort of. It's not really. I didn't even know that for a while that was them doing that, which is pretty cool because they're a Formula One team that clearly sees value in the battery tech side of things. And yeah, I think a lot of the big names in the automotive space are making a lot of big pledges to be, net zero in the coming years, and I think that's really great because it shows that they see value in what electric is trying to do, and it helps racing because that means that there's just going to be more teams on the grid that have some stuff to test out.
So obviously we've got kind of a few minutes left now, Ellis. So I just want to kind of put this out to the listeners and ask if there are any specific questions around innovations and Ellis's schedule and what's going on in his world. So feel free to pop questions in the chat and we can pick those up. And then we'll just kind of continue, I guess, talking. So any other thoughts and views, Ellis, of what's going on at the moment in your world, like the next big promotion?
I'm pretty much just excited. It's really awesome to get to travel around and drive at these awesome tracks and test out these crazy electric vehicles. It's really great.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just super exciting, getting to have your career grow with a new side of the sport is, it's not a common occurrence in, the space of motorsports. So it's definitely just really exciting.
And you're committed, you're all in, aren't you? Kind of
Oh
doing
yeah.
a lot of traveling, like you're just
Yeah.
talking before the
Yeah.
kind of live about sleeping for 15 hours in the back of vans and kind of
Yeah.
traveling all over the world, and just the commitment of you and your family to the, not just your racing, but I guess to the cause of electric
Yeah.
motorsport is
Yeah,
quite.
it's a lot of back-to-backs, sort of waking up and then putting the suit on and then getting ready to go. It's those ones are pretty crazy, is when you have sort of a really tight schedule of, testing during the week, and then you have to be at a whole different country for a race. Is it really is a lot of traveling behind the scenes, but we have an awesome van, so it's a lot of fun.
And I guess your family have been on this journey with your mum and your dad, especially, like kind of from the very beginning. Like, what role do they play in your journey, in your career?
Yeah, they're both filmmakers. They've been doing
Mm,
that for pretty much their whole life.
mm,
And then once we started racing, instead of filming weddings, they got to film race cars, which I think they enjoy. And my dad, he's our blockchain and metaverse sort of expert.
mm.
He's the one on track with the crazy bright colored vest, filming all the cars. And my mom is sort of our manager. She gets us where we have to go, and books all the travel and make sure that when we arrive we'll have a bed to sleep in. And yeah, that's what she does.
Amazing. Definitely dreaming bigger as a family.
Yeah.
Which the theme is coming through strong and fast. So if people want to kind of get involved, support the sort of movement, if you like, what do you think the best way of doing that is?
Yeah, so all of our keeping up to date is most of our stuff is posted on Instagram. It's Ellysium Racing, is that's where we sort of send out, posts during a race weekend, all that. And then our website, Ellysium.co, has contact information, a lot of the media and stuff that we've done in the past couple years. And yeah, those are the main two places to get in touch. And we have a lot coming up, when we fly back to Europe, the 4th of July, is we have pretty much 6 weeks straight of back-to-back weekends. So it's going to be a lot of cool content coming out as well.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess the ERA are quite big players in this arena too.
Yeah, they're pretty much the only ones doing a junior series. So when a driver is in karting and wants to go the electric route and wants to sort of start their career in cars with electric formula racing, they're the only way to go. So looking forward to seeing them grow as well. I think they have something really special.
Yeah. And I know you do have some very cool merchandise as well, Ellis. I've seen that on your
Yeah,
site.
we got one on today. We gotta keep the brand represented all the time at the racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're flying weekend at home and then off again.
Yeah, it's a little vacation, and then back to the crazy travel and racing schedule.
There's no rest, is there?
Nope.
Um, and just any kind of, we've literally got a few seconds left, Ellis, like less than a minute. So any sort of final thoughts or thinking?
Yeah, just get in touch, check out what we're doing. I think there's a lot of people that are on here that I'd love to work with, and I'm sure would love to get involved with the racing side of things. So don't hesitate to reach out, and look forward to hearing from some of you guys.
Awesome. And I would like to thank Chris from Live Illustrations, who has been like amazingly capturing everything we've been talking about. So awesome. What have we got? Electric racing, the new verticals, exactly. Testing ground. It's very much a sandbox, isn't it, for kind of developments and that everyone can learn from. All about the weight, the kind of like limits, well, not the limits, the kind of areas for improvement moving forward. People being open to more to sponsorships because of the sustainability connection, which people genuinely care about and want to get involved with and support. The full sort of circular end-to-end approach and consideration around the kind of structure. So not the infrastructure, not just the racing. So overall, it's been an awesome chat, Ellis. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
for having me.
yeah, and I will stay in touch and really look forward to what you get up to next.
Awesome.
Okay.